Good day, future civil engineers. I am Jericho Dihakihaka from BSc 3A, and I am one of the presenter undermining some laws concurrent to the field of civil engineering. The topic that I will be discussing is about the sections 4, 5, and 6 of the Presidential Decree 1594 of the Republic of the Philippines. The Presidential Decree 1594 is an edict otherwise known as prescribing policies, guidelines, rules, and regulations for government infrastructure contracts. As a pinch of history, it was promulgated on June 11, 1978 and was signed by former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. for better management of the project contracts of the government. Prior to its objective, this was made due to the underlying fact that the current policies, guidelines, and regulations that govern government contracts for infrastructure and other public works projects are dispersed and proven to be insufficient to deal with the complicated and sophisticated process required. Additionally, in terms of achieving a more effective and efficient implementation of government contracts for infrastructure and other construction projects, a complete and accurate, uniform, and up-to-date legislative framework, guidelines, rules, and other regulations encompassing government contracts for infrastructure and other infrastructure improvements and projects are required. First, let us discuss the Section 4, or the PE evaluation of contractors' performance. Under this section of the PD1594, we have PE1, or the subject and scope. All contractors undertaking projects with the government, regardless of contract amount and funding source, and whose contracts are awarded either through bidding or negotiation, shall have their performance evaluated by offices, agencies, corporations concerned. These evaluations shall be done during construction and upon completion of each government project. PE2 Evaluation Guidelines. All offices, agencies, corporations concerned are mandated to adopt the CPES implementing guidelines as approved by the NEDA Infracom. While the CPES is specific for road, bridge, housing, building, port and harbor projects, agencies concerned may formulate and adopt their own implementing guidelines specific to project types other than those above mentioned, but along the same line with the approved CPES, provided the NEDA Infracom has no objection for the adoption of the formulated guidelines, and provided further that the formulated guidelines are made known to all prospective bidders. PE3 Implementation Mechanism for CPES. 1. Each agency shall establish a CPES implementing unit, which shall be responsible for CPES guidelines implementation, including, but not limited to the supervision of the performance evaluators accredited by the CIAP. PE4 Submission of Evaluation Results. All offices, agencies, corporations concerned shall submit the results of their performance evaluation to the CIAP within a week after the conduct of the final evaluation. PE5 Utilization of Evaluation Results. The CIAP shall consolidate all of the evaluation results received and shall disseminate the same to all offices, agencies, corporations concerned. Such data shall be used, among others, in the pre-qualification and blacklisting of construction firms, in adopting measures to further improve performance of contractors in the prosecution of the government projects. Next, we have the Section 5 of the Presidential Decree 1594, entitled Administrative Sanctions. 1. The administrative sanctions as provided for under the Uniform Guidelines for Blacklisting Constructors involved in public construction, CIAP blacklisting guidelines shall be imposed for offenses or violations committed by the contractors during pre-qualification, bidding, award, and contract implementation. 2. The imposition of the administrative sanctions in this section shall be pursuant to the CIAP blacklisting guidelines approved by the NEDA Infracom on 14th August 1996 and by the NEDA Board on 17th of September 1996. The CIAP blacklisting guidelines shall, however, be subject to review and revision by the CIAP Interagency Committee (IAC) on blacklisting amendments or revisions to such guidelines shall be approved by the CIAP Board and become effective 15 days after filing the same with the Office of the National Administrative Register pursuant to Administrative Code of 1987. 3. Violation of the provisions of the IRR of PD1594 will subject the erring government official or employee to the sanctions provided under existing laws, particularly Republic Acts 3019, known as the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, and 6713, known as the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, and the Civil Service Law, among others. Complaints against the government officials or employees may be filed with the agency head, or if the agency head is the official being complained with, the Office of the President. Lastly, the Section 6 of the Presidential Decree 1594, or the applicability. 1. These implementing rules and regulations as amended shall apply to all contracts for infrastructure and other construction projects of all government agencies, including government-owned and controlled corporations, and other instrumentalities that will either be bid out or negotiated, including those through sealed canvass or simplified public bidding after 10 days from date of dissemination of these amended implementing rules and regulations by the National Economic and Development Authority, NEDA, Committee on Infrastructure, Infracom, unless otherwise specially provided herein. For contracts bid out before said effectivity date, the previous implementing rules and regulations shall apply. Any violations hereof shall be punishable under existing laws, rules, and regulations as may be appropriate. These amended implementing rules and regulations shall not apply to lump sum Pacquiao contracts. The above notwithstanding, nothing in these implementing rules and regulations shall negate any existing and future commitments with respect to the bidding, award, and execution of contracts financed partly or wholly with funds from the international financial institutions, as well as from the bilateral and other similar sources. And that concludes my presentation.